Item 8, public hearings. Notices have been published, posted mail, hold public hearing, waive first reading, introduce ordinances adjusting water and wastewater rates as presented in the notice of proposed increases mailed to all property owners. And staff report first.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, 2 items are before you tonight for public hearing, and those are proposed increases to our rates for the water and sewer enterprise operations. The rate that is being proposed tonight is part of a 3-year rate program. It is subject to a mailed notice process, which I will describe in just a moment, and it is also required that the City Council hold a public hearing prior to taking action on the proposed rates. The action that the Council would take is actually in 2 parts because our rates are set by ordinance. So tonight you will be hearing from the public and hearing from staff and asking questions and making comments. We will bring this item back to you, assuming your direction is to do so. We will bring this back to you for a second reading at your next regular council meeting on May 26th, at which time any council action would be taken. Again, as I indicated, the rates are being proposed for a 3-year period. This comes on the heels of a prior 3-year period of a rate program which was adopted by the City Council in 2006 and which rates are effective now until June 30th, 2009. Pursuant to the legally required process for the City Council to undertake consideration of rate changes for its utility operations, the City has complied with those requirements as articulated in Proposition 218. On March 24th, 2009, the City Council received and directed staff to provide mailed notice on the proposed rates. The notices were subsequently mailed on March 27th, thereby initiating a 45-day review period for property owners in San Bruno who would be potentially affected by the rate program. Again, your public hearing tonight is the next but not final step in the process of rate setting. The proposed increases, and tonight you'll see that the presentation, rather than doing 2 separate presentations on the water and the wastewater enterprises, we'll be doing that in a combined manner for efficiency. The proposed water rate increase totals 11.78% for the year beginning July 1, and the proposed wastewater rate increase totals 10.16% for the year beginning July 1. As staff will further discuss with you later in the presentation, additional rate increases are proposed in the subsequent 2 years of the 3-year program. However, I wanted to make sure that it was clear exactly what is being proposed because there has been, in addition to the 45-day mailed notice that was provided by the City of San Bruno, there has been other information circulating in the community that suggests, in fact, that a 40% and 30% rate increase is being considered tonight. While it is accurate that a cumulative increase over 3 years would total more than, it roughly equates to the numbers that were provided in that separate notice that was disseminated by somebody other than the City of San Bruno. It is not accurate to suggest that that amount of an increase is being considered to take effect on July 1. Again, those amounts are in the water enterprise, 11.78%, and in the wastewater enterprise, 10.16%. As I indicated, and just for a very quick review, the public notification process requires that notices are provided to residents of any rate change at least 45 days prior to the first reading of the ordinance, which is on your agenda tonight. And the City Council has the ability to adjust the rates by the proposed amount or by a lesser amount, except if the city were to receive protests from more than 50% of the property owners in San Bruno receiving the mailed notice. The mailed notice, again, as I indicated, was sent out on March 27th, and since that time, the city has received a total of 387 protests. I've given a summary of those protests in a document that is on the DS tonight and which is available if anybody else wants it. We were able, in the time up to the close of today's business, to summarize those protests and to identify the number of those that were provided with the required parcel number and signature of the property owner. That number is 352. However, as the City Council has always directed staff to seek the maximum public input possible, and I know it is your historic and current practice to listen and to accept comment from anybody who wants to take the time to communicate with you. We are reporting to you the total number of 387 protests. That number includes those that didn't have a signature on them or omitted a parcel number. And I would just note for the record that the city has not either had the time or at this point taken the time to verify property ownerships with matching the signatures against the parcel number. Again, that number represents approximately 3.3% of the total number of notices that were mailed to property owners in the city, suggesting that while that 3.3% have taken the time to communicate their protest to you, that the overwhelming majority, well over 96% of residents who have received notices from the city and potentially from others have not done so. With that, our presentation tonight includes two additional parts. That is one that will be delivered by Jim Shannon of the Public Works Department to generally walk through the development of the rates and the projects and activities that are represented behind those costs. And then Jim O'Leary of the Finance Department will provide an overview of the financial aspects of the proposed rates.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll talk a little bit about some of the ways that the Public Works Department manages the utility underground system of water and sewer, a little bit about what we've done in capital improvements and what we had planned to do in these next 3 years, and then some of the challenges that this agency faces, like all agencies, with escalating costs and regulations. So managing the underground utilities. It's the city's priority to manage the utilities in a responsible, reliable, sustainable, and flexible manner. What this means is that aside from just water coming out of the faucet and the toilets flushing, there's a lot more that goes into keeping the system up to date, responsive from breaking down, which includes moving water and sewage up and down throughout the city's geographic region, which is, as you know, quite hilly, making sure that the pipes that carry the water and sewage are in a decent condition and able to maintain that flow, the tanks that we have to hold our water. So there's a lot of stuff that often is underground or sort of hidden away in the back corners that go into making this a robust system that can serve the citizens' needs as they've come to expect. So the past work that we have done in our capital program and operating has been to address known deficiencies in the system, to make sure that we have enough capacity, which we have mostly done those improvements. What is needed in the future are improvements to maintain the additional system reliability, not additional, but to maintain the system reliability and flexibility. And just to be a little more specific, over the last 10 years for the sewer, we've replaced about 6% of the underground piping. We've replaced one pump station and eliminated another. And so instead of pumping the sewage, we're using gravity flow piping, which reduces cost. Over the next 3 years, we need to do a little more of the same. We need to replace 5% of the underground pipe, and we plan to replace one of those pump stations. So very similar in terms of our water system investments. The last 10 years, we've replaced 3% of the underground pipe. We've replaced one well to maintain our groundwater pumping capacity, as well as replaced one pump station. Over the next 3 years, we plan to replace an additional 3% of underground pipe for replacement needs, replace one pump station, and then seismically retrofit 2 of the water tanks. And then to talk about some of the factors that are driving these rate increases, as council's aware, we have a very old system. We're not unlike a lot of places in the peninsula where we have old underground pipes. Our average age is 60 to 80 years old, but of course we have pipes that are 100 years old and over, especially for sewage. There are increasingly stringent state regulations for both water and sewer systems. This really drives a lot of our cost for the South San Francisco San Bruno treatment plant, especially for sewage, as new requirements have been placed upon that system since we've made prior improvements. The SFPUC will increase prices by 60% over the next 3 years. So that is another major driver of the costs that we've been taking into account with this rate study. So with that, I believe I will turn it over to Jim O'Leary, the Finance Director.
Just before you start, Jim. Yeah, I was just, yeah. Thank you, Clark.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, both the water and wastewater funds are set up as enterprise funds, which indicate that these are the city's business operations, two of the city's business operations, and as such, there is no direct taxpayer or taxes that go into the revenue base for these two operations. There's the expectation of the City Council as enterprise accounts, both on the council's part, on our bondholders' part, on federal and state agencies, that in fact as an enterprise account, the ratepayers pay for 100% of the costs. Again, taxes don't go into this, and there's a fine distinction between the ratepayers and the taxpayers, but there are no tax dollars that go in as revenue into these two operations. There are a whole variety of costs that are outside of the city's direct ability to control within these costs, and just wanted to mention 3 of them in the two enterprises. One is the treatment plant costs. The city of San Bruno shares treatment plant facilities with the city of South San Francisco. That plant is in the city of South San Francisco and is operated by the city of South San Francisco with an expectation that the city pay its proportionate share of the costs of that treatment plant. Within our wastewater fund, that is the single largest operation or cost at nearly $3.7 million for this next year is the cost of the treatment plant costs that are the responsibility of the city of San Bruno. On the water side, approximately half of the water that is delivered to the residents of San Bruno is delivered from the SFPUC. We are currently spending about $1.7, $1.8 million for water purchases. There are significant rate increases from San Francisco Water that have already been projected and directed to agencies on the peninsula through 2011-12, and the cost is expected to go up to as much as $2.6 million on an annual basis. And on an operating basis, the water purchase accounts for about 42% of just the operating costs. Finally, there's debt service. There are significant improvements done to the South San Francisco treatment plant that require loans from the State Water Quality Board. The city of San Bruno is responsible for that debt service over 40 years. In the wastewater, 30 years, I'm sorry. The city in 2002 issued bonds in order to do work that was necessary under a cease and desist order And so there is debt service again for that work. Wanted to just in the next couple of slides just touch very briefly on an outline of what makes up the proposed 09-10 wastewater, and then mention the water budget. Just very quickly again, personnel costs for maintenance and supervision of the city's own personnel amounts to about 18% of the total budget. The wastewater treatment is about 34% of the anticipated expenditure, debt service 13%, other operating expenses, including tools and equipment, is about 20%, and 16% of the total expenditure for 09-10 is based on capital replacement and improvements. Similarly, in the water budget, personnel is 17%. The water purchase is also about 17%. Other operating expenses are about 29%, and again, capital replacement improvements in the water fund, because we've really had more expenditures in the last 10 years on the wastewater side. There's a need to catch up, and there's about 37% of the anticipated expenditures next year are a result of the need for capital improvements and capital replacements. One point in looking at the budget, again, the individual circulating the protest information made the claim, alleged that a number of bad decisions made by the council led to the need for these rate increases. If you look at the budgets as I outlined, and you looked at the cost for wastewater treatment plant, for the cost of water, for the cost of debt service, I think it's simply factually incorrect to say that bad decisions have led to this, but there's very solid reasons and expenditures that are required for these two business operations that lead to the need for the rate adjustments. Going on then to the proposed rate adjustment, as the city manager indicated, the proposed water rate increase for the year 9-10 is 11.78%. The proposed wastewater increase is 10.16. Might just mention for the wastewater, last year was the third year of a 3-year rate increase that had been approved by the council in 2006. Last year's rate increase was over 12%. Again, this year for 9-10, it is being proposed at 10.16. Again, there is an increase. Again, as mentioned, a lot of the effort over the last number of years was more on the wastewater side. There's a need and sort of a lag on the water side. So there is a rate increase proposed, 11.78, compared to an 8% that was approved for the third year last year. Just wanted to touch briefly on what other jurisdictions are doing. I mean, the cost of operation of water and wastewater enterprises and operations just the cost of water and wastewater operations in other jurisdictions and agencies are facing the same cost impacts that the city of San Bruno is facing, the whole clean water requirements, the potential of fines for pollution as it relates to the bay waters. The fines are pretty substantial. So agencies are throughout the Bay Area and around the country are required to make the continuing investments that the city is proposing. Just a couple of examples. Redwood City is proposing a 9% increase in sewer. San Mateo is 9%. The city of South San Francisco has a 218 notice process underway and they are envisioning a 20% increase next year in the city of South San Francisco. On the water side, Redwood City is looking at a 9% water increase. For Cal Water in San Carlos and San Mateo, there's about a 10% increase. And in the city of South San Francisco, the water increase that's being looked at is about 12%.
So in summary, that is the staff report. I need to give you a quick update on the numbers of the protests that have been received. There was one category of numbers that inadvertently were omitted from the total that I gave you previously, and I've taken the opportunity to add to the total count the number of the items that we received here tonight after business hours, but prior to your public hearing. That total is, the grand total is 454 protests, and again, I would note that that includes a number of items that were improperly prepared given the requirements of Proposition 218, either without the parcel number or without signature. That is the grand total, 454. That equates to a 3.9% of the total of the number of notices that were mailed to property owners in the city of San Bruno. Again, a summary of the next steps. You're required to hold a public hearing if you wish to consider the rates as proposed. Next, you would need to bring that back for a second reading of the ordinance and your formal action to consider adoption of the rates at your next regular council meeting on May 26th. And any change that is directed to the rates would be effective July 1st. So with that, staff is available to take your questions.
Any questions from council at this time?
I
Councilman
do.
Rivera?
And maybe it can be explained over the course of the testimony. But the fifth and sixth slide where you outlined the last 10 years in both systems and then made a statement as far as what the next 3 years will look like. In the last 10 years, and explained in the staff report, that we were fairly aggressive and trying to be prudent and trying to catch up, and for many years of not taking care of the infrastructure. And we replaced 6% of the sewer system and 3% of the water system. For many of the people that are protesting or want to know, how come in the next 3 years we feel that we need to replace 5%, which is roughly almost the same amount that we've been doing in the last 10 years, and then 3% of water system in the next 3 years when we've done the same in the last 10 years? Can you explain to the public what is the urgency and why do we need to do something in the next 3 years that we've been able to do in the last 10?
Yeah, I will give you an initial answer, and the director may want to elaborate on my answer. First of all, I would just like to note that the two slides that you referenced, slides number 5 and 6, where we talked about the last 10 years and the next 3 years, this is for the purpose of this presentation, is a very simple snapshot and does not by any means intend to elaborate on the broad range of projects that have been completed, a number of which were done in order to address specific trouble spots or issues on a fix as necessary type of routine. But I think, Councilmember Rivera, that you may have answered your question best with a comment that you made just now, and that is that the city has really addressed itself in its capital investment efforts primarily over the past 10 years to those items that really were urgently in need of attention. It is necessary to focus continuously on the overall reliability of the system and its eventual complete replacement. But we have literally had a limited opportunity to really focus on the mainline replacements and the other basic, simple infrastructure replacement, which is intended to be a key component as we continue to address those trouble spots that we hope will become fewer and fewer, that we take a strategic, long-term but deliberate initiative to make sure that we are addressing the actual system replacement in a methodical manner.
The city manager had a very thorough answer, and I would add only just one aspect to this answer: this more stringent regulation. The regulation really has a major impact how the city best can manage the sewer system and the water system, and how the city manager indicated those capacity deficiencies were mainly already addressed in the past 10 years. Now the focus has to be on system replacement, the pipe replacement. The department brought with us one piece of rusted pipe. This is one was replaced just lately in the last few months, weeks. Is a water pipe. You can see how badly it's rusted, and I would like if the public you will take some time after the meeting just to touch that piece of pipe, and there are many just like it throughout the city, and that's this is the type of pipe our water still flowing through, and I really just would like you to take a minute. On the sewer side, I would emphasize I don't need to say, I hope, anything else if you will look at that pipe. On the sewer side, focusing on minimizing the infiltration and inflow is very important to minimize the infiltration and inflow. Is very important for us to focus on main replacement to be able to minimize that. And that's why you see the city being more aggressive about replacing those mains in the next 3 years, knowing also the fact that the city of San Bruno still has a very high number of overflow. Sewer overflow is higher than is higher than the median range in our region.
Any other questions from council this time? Okay, this is a public hearing, and just let me give you a little background on how the public hearing is going to work so everyone gets a fair chance at speaking. The city clerk has a timer that she'll run. Everyone gets 3 minutes, and if you're running close to your time and you haven't completed, I'll make sure you get your thoughts out and can get a little extra time. The clerk has asked anyone wishing to speak to fill out a card, and she's given them to me. If you haven't filled one out, the assistant clerk is in the back. Vicki, maybe you could just step in so people can see you there. Please get one and just hand it to her now, and they'll see that I get it up here. And I ask you to bear with me. I'm going to try not to butcher your names, but probably a lot of names I haven't heard before, so I might butcher a few. And we'll go through. We will jot down your questions. It's not in a public hearing. It's not a dialogue, but we'll jot the questions down if you have questions, and we'll make sure that we get the answers before we move on. And if we haven't gotten the answers, I'll ask and make sure that I haven't missed anyone's questions out there. So with that, why don't we get started? The first speaker is John Moret from Crestmore Drive.
Hello. My first question is, they've been talking a lot about the pipeline from Yosemite down to Crystal Springs Road. That's crumbling and it can't withstand much more pressure. Are we going to get hit with another raise in assessment if this thing goes through? Say in 3 years, the pipeline cracks and they have to replace it. They've been talking about hitting all the cities up for more money to replace it. If anybody here is...
Well, I can answer that quickly for you. Part of this increase is based on the increased costs from the San Francisco PUC, and part of their increase is based on the anticipation of replacing those pipes. Are we going to see an increase in 3 years, or are we going to see an increase if there's a catastrophic failure in that system? Absolutely. I'm sure that if that system had an emergency failure, the San Francisco PUC is going to step forward and replace it and make repairs and borrow whatever money it has, and then pass that expense on to all of its customers, which the city of San Bruno is one of its customers.
Yeah.
So it's not where we want to be, but unfortunately it's where we're at. And if you've looked at any of those programs on the Hetch-Hetchy system and some of the concerns, I mean, they have pipes that are over 100 years old that are crossing wooden trestles coming into the Bay Area. So in a major earthquake, they're very susceptible to problems.
Okay. Where do San Bruno get its water from besides well water?
About half of it is from well, and the rest is from the city of San Francisco. It's from Hetch-Hetchy. It's from the SFPUC.
The people that are on well water, do they get a cheaper price than the people of San Francisco have to pump out of Crystal Springs Road?
No, it's all combined. And at one point, there was, in history of San Bruno, there was sections of town that only got Hetch-Hetchy and sections that got only well water. Currently, today, it's blended. And so it's pretty much an even blend, and the rates are blended. We can produce water a little bit cheaper than we can buy it, if you don't take into consideration the maintenance and replacement of everything. But it's a blended rate, so everyone's paying the same rate.
Okay, I drive San Bruno, I walk San Bruno, and I don't know what crewmen you guys are using, but I never see any replacement for pipes. I never see any construction. The only construction I ever saw is on Crystal Springs Road, which eliminated the pump station and sent the pipe down the road halfway. That's the only construction I've ever seen in San Bruno. I don't know who's supposed to be doing the work, but I'm sure a lot of these people that are sitting here have never seen any work crews around replacing water pipes or sewer pipes or anything else. I guess, is this meeting about garbage too, or?
Well, it's a separate hearing following this regarding garbage.
Okay. Well, the rest of my thing was on garbage.
Okay, well, you can come back
They
up.
didn't say it was a separate meeting, they said it was.
Well, it's noticed on the agenda as two separate public hearings, and so we have to hold them in that manner. Next speaker is Alex Lowe on Elm Avenue.
I'm a new resident of San Bruno, and I've seen increase once this year, and the presentation you just showed have increased on other cities, which are 9%, and South City 20%. Why can't San Bruno be equal to San Francisco or Redwood City, which is 9%? You know, why would we have pay more than bigger cities than us? And also, repairs are necessary, but what cost-cutting device are you putting in place, trying to cut down man hours or something like that? Because I see people, the public working in the streets, and one is just sitting doing nothing, and only a few are working. So cost-cutting ways should be put in place to cut costs, and one of the allegations in here, and which you guys didn't dispute, is wages. So how much is 16% or 17% equivalent to wages? How much increase do you get paid when everybody's getting laid off and getting furloughs? And losing their job and paying high cost of everything else, and expecting that we pay for the high officials' big paycheck. You guys didn't dispute that allegation. You dispute other allegations on the letter that we received.
Thank you. Next speaker is Doris Mays, Fleetwood Drive.
Good evening, honorable council members, mayor, city staff, and fellow citizens. First of all, I'd like to commend staff for doing a thorough job of trying to tell us why we're doing what you're proposing. Nevertheless, I'm opposed to the proposed rate increases. They do allow, over current rates, over the 3-year period, it does amount to 40% above current rates for water, 33% above current rates for wastewater service. This is because it's really compounded. Next year it's going to be up 10 and about 11%. Then another 11% on top of that, and it keeps adding up. So it is in fact a cumulative increase. So this is pretty drastic considering where we are in this economic climate. Families have a hard time meeting their mortgage payments, paying for their food and the clothing, got to put the kids in school, all those things that the families have to do. Also, there's a lot of retirees in this city who are living on fixed income, so trying to absorb those increased costs will be very difficult. And not only that, not just in their current utility bill, every service that they pay for in the city that involves a business that has been impacted by these increases, businesses are just going to pass those costs on to their customers. So every one of us who live in San Bruno are going to pay more than just our own utility bill in terms of increased costs. That's one aspect. The other thing that I have a beef with is that the policy of setting wastewater use based on winter months worked when we had a specific dry season and a specific wet season. That ain't true anymore. It varies from year to year what it is, so basing it on specific calendar months is not really realistic, because it assumes then water that you're using for irrigation during those months goes down the sewer. It doesn't. So I'd like you to consider thinking about revising that policy to consider using the 4 months that have the lowest or have the highest rainfall, so that you aren't impacting, you're not including irrigation use in setting wastewater rates. Another beef that I have, and I've asked, Carol, did you pass that on? Okay, you have in front of you an example. For example, it hit me this year because my actual water use was 4.5 units a month during the 4 months that you were talking about. Got rounded up. It was 5.5, I'm sorry, it was 5.5. Got rounded up to 6. So that cost me an extra $30 this year. But if you add that kind of thing, a half a unit per month, more than actually you put down the sewer, the impact over a 4-year period is $130. That starts to be some real money. So, you know, it's cumulative. It's a little bit like the frog that's in the water and you keep raising the temperature a little bit, pretty soon he's boiled. And I think that's what the effect of this is. I would like to also ask some questions. Has the rate study actually been done by the company that was referred to in the March 24th staff report? Has that been done, or is it still intended to be done, the rate study? Also, in comparing to South San Francisco, the chart that was on the website showed that South San Francisco had the second lowest rate. 20% of the second lowest rate isn't as nearly as much as it might sound, because they had their rate was around $30 a month. It'll be around $36. Ours is up in about the $50 range. So that's quite a difference. And we use the same treatment system, so the basic difference is in our collection system costs. Okay, I think that's all. And I just want to encourage you to think carefully about the aggressiveness of our program, because the major cost is in line rehabilitation and replacement. So perhaps some softening of that aspect might be considered. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker is Miguel Araujo Jr.
Hi, my name is Miguel Araujo Jr. I'm one of the people that helped pass out this flyer at San Brunians for Better Government. We created this flyer to inform the community about what they were doing, that in reality, they are raising our wastewater rates by 40%, and our wastewater sewer rates by 33%, and our water rates by 40%. This is a tactic a lot of local municipalities use of increments, but at the end of this, we will be paying that. That is 100% correct. And I do have a couple of questions to ask Mayor Larry Franzella. You know, this is pretty interesting to me, this whole idea of raising water rates so high. You know, I want to know what type of, whether the $5 million that the city of San Bruno lent the redevelopment agency, does that have anything to do with this? Because as I understand, the redevelopment agency is $9 million in debt, and we're paying interest on that. That's the first question. My second question is, what type of effect did I believe it was $1.2 million, which city treasurer lost in bad investments. How does that impact, or what effect does that have in your decision of attempting to raise our water rates and sewer rates? And in fact, I have one third question. I know a lot of city staff have these bloated salaries. You know, you have some staff members making about $160,000, $170,000 a year with perks and benefits. What type of cuts are they going to take in order to help the citizens of San Bruno out? Those are my three questions.
Great, thank you.
Would you like to answer them?
We're going to answer all the questions. There's a number of questions from other people.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you can be sure. Make sure you stay. Cami Ranaman, Easton Avenue. I hope I pronounced that correct. Hope I didn't butcher it too much.
I just have a quick question from the staff that was responsible for mailing out the notices back in March. I don't recall the envelope that the letter came in, and I'm just wondering if there was a note that would indicate a substantial increase on the outside so that people would pay attention to what was inside the letters. Thank you.
Thank you.
And perhaps that would lead to more people coming out and protesting.
Next speaker is Gary Soya, Poplar Avenue.
We have a few more of these that are in the audience that you can count up. The things that I noticed the most were that when you start looking at the 10-year and the 3-year, I don't know if anybody's aware of it, but we're kind of in a recession, and all of a sudden we have to get things done. At my house, I'm trying to cut back so I can get through this for the next 3 years, hoping that it'll get better. We're looking at cities that are going bankrupt and going under. This is causing a problem for everybody, the businessman, the local homeowner, everyone. It's not just a rate increase, it's an increase on everything for everybody. And I don't think we should be doing this right now. It's a bad idea to start big rate increases and catch up on the last 10 years in the middle of a recession. I mean, this is why cities go under, because they keep approving everything, and the money isn't gonna be there, and it isn't gonna solve the problem. That water pipe, there isn't a city in the world that you can't find one like that. And if you think you're gonna replace all the water pipe in the city of San Bruno, there isn't a city in the world that can afford to replace their water pipes. Go to San Francisco, that's an everyday occurrence. If our pipes were that bad and that flaky, we wouldn't have water tomorrow. So it isn't an emergency, it's something we should be looking at for years down the road when we actually can financially afford something. Then let's do this, let's do the 40% increase. But right now, it's a terrible time to put out an increase. Most of the people here are concerned because they're trying to live. A 40% increase, whose salary went up 40%? Mine didn't. There's a lot of people here like me who are retired. We didn't see a 40% increase on my Social Security and my retirement benefits. It just seems like this is how cities get into a financial bind and a financial situation, and people move away or people don't pay their bills. We're trying to make the country work. You're trying to increase taxes. Why are we increasing taxes in the middle of a recession and trying to make all this happen in the 3 years? Yeah, we had to catch up to 10 years, but there isn't anything in any city that can't run on the budget they have today and make it work. And I don't know. I just feel like it's totally frustrating to see people spend money that they don't have and money that other people don't have. There has to be a solution that works for everything. There's over $200,000, almost $200,000 worth of equipment that we're going to spend money on. Is that necessary? Does everybody have to go out and buy a new car this year for the next 3 years? I mean, I'm looking at it, it's just not a financially sound thing to do. I don't think it's a necessary thing to do. All these other cities have a lower rate. All these other cities also are going for increases. That doesn't mean they're going to get the 9%. I don't think we should go as high as what we're going now. I think it has to stop. Someplace, somebody has got to say, stop, no. We can't afford this anymore. It's hurting our businesses. It's hurting the person that's on a fixed income. It's hurting the person that just lost their job. I'm to the point now where I think San Bruno's a beautiful city. I've lived here for like 50 years. I'm going to let my lawn die before I spend more on water. That's a horrible thing to me. I walk my dog every day. I have to go buy houses that don't have grass. Why? Because they can't afford it. They're not doing it because it's cheap. They're doing it because they can't afford it, and that's where people are at now. No one seems to think about that. Drive around the city. How come there's weeds and grass that are dead? Because people don't want to pay the water bill or they can't afford to. It's got to stop someplace. Somebody's got to get up and go, hey, wait, please. Let's be sensible about this. What do we have to do to make this work? Not what can we do to spend money. What can we do to get by for the next 3 years until the economy comes back, till we actually have some money, till we can actually float some bonds that somebody might buy? There isn't anything that we're doing tonight that we can't stop and say, let's wait 3 years, let's look at this, let's improve what we have before we go ahead. Let's take a look at the program and what has to be done. Let's make a list of what's there, take the priorities and do those. Let's not just make a 40% increase and hurt everyone in town. Thank you.
Thank you. Ernest Kruger, Burroughs Avenue.
I don't think they heard you.
Ernest Kruger.
Well, I wasn't going to say much, but my brother worked for the water company of San Bruno for like 20 years and retired and stuff. And he used to tell me, he said, you know, there's things that we could do a little bit at a time, to get the system back going, at least functional. You know, not on the huge scale, but just to keep it going and keep it going. And he goes, kept getting shut down at every term. Anyway, he's been dead a couple of years now, so it doesn't matter to him. But as far as I'm concerned, my family's been paying taxes in the city for over 60 years. We've been paying the city and for everything. We do city cable, we do city water, we do city garbage and everything. And I'm just about done. I'm in my retirement time, and I just got reassessed for my taxes, and it's and I'm just wondering if I'm gonna make it to 71 before I cack over, before I get taxed out of my, burial fee or whatever. Not, it's totally frustrating to me on that, because I don't see any improvements. I see the dollars getting worth less, and the charges are more. So there it goes, there it goes. Your retirement's going down, and everything is going up. And so what are you going to do? You just try and make it to the end, and that's it. And so from one old guy to the rest of the old guys here, that's all I can say. I just hope we can make it to the end. That's all. That's it.
Thank you. Kathy Sanford, Bassman Drive.
I'd like to see what you're going to replace that with. I mean, that would give me some kind of confidence in what your plan is. But I agree with so many, I think everything I've heard tonight, I think it's very important for us to be as green and healthy as we possibly can. But this is the worst economic time. We have suffered in, is it 60 years? How many years is it? It's the worst time. And we have limited, I work for the county, I don't make a lot of money, my husband doesn't make a lot of money, we have 3 kids in school, trying to put them through college and whatnot. It's just a horrible time to raise so high. I agree with, let's take care of the emergencies, let's fix what we have to fix, but, tell people, I didn't get the notice in March. Maybe you did send it, but I didn't get it. And I just on Friday got this notice and looked at it and said, oh my gosh, and then noticed I had to have my parcel number. It was Mother's Day. I had a very busy weekend. I volunteer all the time. I just finished a food distribution for 300 people that are hungry, that don't have food. This is just, it was a lot. I couldn't put that in, but I can tell you, I'm sure that I'm one of hundreds more people that if they knew this was going on, they'd be putting those notices in for you to see as well. This is the worst time to raise so high. It seems as if it was, I don't know if it was intentionally done that way. I don't mean to imply that, but it just is the wrong time. And I'm here to say I definitely disapprove, and I know I'm not alone. I'm sure there are so many more people that would agree with that. So it would be nice if you could show us what the good system would look like. I'm sure, that does look very nasty, and I agree with the gentleman who said there's probably not a city in the world that doesn't have that. But our rates are very high. I love San Bruno. San Bruno's a great town. My husband's from San Francisco, and he wants to get out of this town. He thinks it's small. I think it's charming and wonderful, and I think that we need to be careful so that it stays that way and not go under and, crush the people that are paying for this. This is just the wrong time to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Kelly, Oak Avenue.
Good evening, the mayor and council members, staff members, and citizens. We are presented with a very rusty, broken water pipe as an example of what drives this requested rate increase. I would like to hear staff and council talk more about some other realities that grab the mind more dramatically than that pipe. I mean the reality of the horrendous depression we are in. I mean people who are being asked to absorb rising costs at a time when their fiscal absorbency is down to 0 or less. I would like to hear from staff and council more about the alternatives that might exist to a rate increase to the point of having no rate increase at all, or cutting it in half or less. I know people who are barely getting by. I know people who are not getting by. They have lost jobs. Some have lost homes. Some have lost transportation. They've seen their income checks dwindle to the point that they have little more than enough to keep body and soul together. Some of them no longer even have shelter. I endorse those speakers who say this is not a time in the city's history or in the economic problems that we face. This is not a time to drive people's cost of living up. Let's look at the alternatives. Thank you.
Carolyn Livingood, Cheryl Drive.
When I moved to San Bruno nearly 50 years ago, I was a redhead. I'm white-haired today, and I look around here at most of the city staff, and there's very few of you with white hair. But let me tell you, those 50 years go fast, real fast. I now work 2 jobs to keep myself going. My pension has gone down. My salary a couple months ago, about 3 months ago, went down 40%, plus my space cut at the paper. I know that my Social Security is frozen for the next 3 years. I think you've seen that in the paper. My health care, medicine, dental, hearing. I have to wear hearing aids now. Never thought I'd get to that stage. That's all gone up. But in the other side of it, my house value has dropped. I think most of you know that's happened too. On the other side, water wants to go up, wastewater wants to go up, gasoline's going back up, garbage is going up, gas, well, I already mentioned gasoline, sorry. Even newspaper subscriptions have gone up, depending upon the paper you take. Sales tax has gone up. But remember, I took a 40% pay cut. Now, how in the heck am I supposed to keep balancing things? Plus, while I'm sympathetic that the city certainly has problems, I'm very sympathetic to that. But have some sympathy for a lot of us that have to maintain our property. I'm having a heck of a time trying to figure out how I'm going to pay for the next roof. I'm having a heck of a time trying to figure out how I'm going to pay for certain things in my home. I'm trying to figure out, as one of the gentlemen mentioned, about cutting down on my water usage. I'm trying to figure, can I get it landscaped? Can I afford landscaping to change it so I don't use water? And that's before I found out about this. It's a challenge, folks, and you're all young yet. There's very few of you along this side of the room that are near my age. But you're going to be someday, so you better be thinking about where you're putting yourself financially, because I never dreamed I'd be in the position I'm in now. It's nice to keep working. It keeps you, hopefully, it keeps Alzheimer's at bay. And I always tell God in the morning, I'm too busy. You can't kill me off right now. But to get serious about this, how long can we keep lasting? A lot of us that are older and can't make up some of this money that we've lost through our pension and that, believe me, it's a sad state of affairs, and it's getting worse. And you're going to be up in our category pretty soon.
Catherine Lamb, Goodwin Drive.
Good evening. I moved to San Bruno from Pacifica 5 years ago. I used to pay only $16 a month for water bill. And I've been paying all the utility bills for my mom in San Francisco. And believe me, even at this time, San Francisco garbage bill, water bill, electricity bill, electricity is the same for everybody. It's way less than San Bruno. And when I first got a notice about the increase of the water bill, my first impression was I feel for the seniors. I feel for the family who lost their jobs. I'm very fortunate. I still have my job. But when I dig into my record, and I know that I have been, myself and my husband and my 7-year-old, I train my 7-year-old to save water, to conserve water. I put a timer every night when she goes into the shower to 5 minutes, the max. She's very good at saving water now. But when I look back my record, 15 months ago, my average usage was 28 units. And now, with the very last bill was 9 units. So I'm very proud of myself about that. I try everything that we can do at home to conserve water. But guess what? The statement, the payment, the balance is even higher this March, $254 compared to last year March, $249. I was using 28 units last March, but this March statement, I use only 9. And when I got the bill, when I got the notice about the increase, I feel for the senior. I'm like, I have a job, a decent job, a good job. I work for Cisco. I still have my job. My husband still have his job. I'm like, how are the citizens going to pay for all this? And the family who recently lost their job, and I agree to everybody who just said that this is not the right time. And I practice. I've been doing a lot of projects for Cisco, and I ran a lot of projects for Cisco. I just hope that maybe we could think about some creative way to prioritize some projects, or maybe spread out the projects to a longer period of time. This is just not the right time. Although I could afford the bill. Yeah, I could tell you I could afford the bill. But why do I come here? I come here not because I cannot write the check for this bill, but I'm like, there are a lot of people cannot afford this. And also, water is not like electricity. We cannot generate electricity. We cannot generate water ourselves. We could generate electricity. Frankly, I have a solar power system on my roof. My electricity bill is $8 a month. I'm very proud of myself, conserving electricity and water, but there are people that cannot afford it. And I just hope that maybe we could, think of some creative way to make it easier for the senior for the people that who lost their family, lost their job. This is not the right time.
Thank you. Alfredo Barroso.
Okay, I'm gonna be a translator.
Okay. Hola, my name is Alfredo Barroso. ¿Cómo están? Buenas noches.
He's saying his name is Alfredo Barroso, and he likes to tell everyone a greeting that it's a buenas noches.
So, yo pienso que ahorita no es tiempo de subir el agua porque ahorita estamos pasando unos momentos que no es verdadero subirlo.
He's saying that right now is not a good time to raise the water rates and sewer rates because right now it's a really bad economic time.
So, ¿qué pasa si perdemos el trabajo? ¿Qué pasa si pasa X cosa y tenemos que estar seguros de que el agua se va a quedar así? Porque si perdemos el trabajo, ¿quién nos la va a pagar?
He's saying that even though someone may have a job right now and may incur the cost, what happens if you lose your job? No one else but yourself is going to be able to pay that bill.
So, ahí con mi cuñada está pagando $500, $550 por 2 meses. ¿Qué pasa si perdemos el empleo, si no tenemos trabajo? Porque yo pienso que ahorita no es momento para que suba el agua, porque ahorita no es momento, yo pienso.
His sister-in-law is paying $500 a month currently, and if she were to lose her job, it would be very difficult for her to pay that bill.
Es todo lo que quería decirles. Muchas gracias.
That's everything I'd like to say. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Julio Molino.
Good night, everybody. I know everybody. I respect to the old people. Is only mentioned to the old people. Is way to November. It's in November. It's coming up elections. It's the guys. Is coming up past her situation. See you the face in November. Especially, he's not only running three people. He's probably running for 5 people for recalls. Thank you. Good night.
Miguel Araujo.
Mr. Francella, Council Board, people of San Bruno. San Bruno right now have a very, very hard times. Not only an economic situation. I walk in, I do deliveries around the area, and I see so many houses empty. So many houses with bunch the papers and the doors. People already not living there for months. Besides that, I don't see the city council pass no rule to helping the people of San Bruno. Nothing. We don't have nothing coming from the people we're supposed to handle our business, to helping us in these moments, to helping the poor people. We don't have money to pay the mortgage. So our poor people in San Bruno, the only choice we have is move it away. And that's why a lot of houses around the area empty. You open your mouth and complaining about something, they punish you in many ways. And this is one of the ways when they do it. They call normal rule. They call an administrative punishment. If I complain, they give me this, or use it any forms. And to me, that is corruption. And the reason is because I get a punishment $100 because they say I'm not fixing my yard. And I walking in the last few days San Bruno, and I found there's hundreds of the house, even the house or the buildings belong the city, they are worse than my house. But they don't have this, no. $100 note that's paid today by my landlord. I think few things are not working right in San Bruno. And maybe next week I'm not in San Bruno because maybe they're forcing me to move it away from the city. And the reason is because anytime when I say something, they punching me one side or punching me the other one, many different ways. I think democracy is part the deal to talk and to stand and to express what we feel. And when I see my people in San Bruno, the people will give me everything to me. Because when I came to San Bruno, 1977, I get one hand in the back and one in the front. I got a small business. My small business paid $284 every month. Right now I pay, and sometimes I can pay, I'm still behind many times. Many times I had to negotiate because my bill is way too much, $1,500, and I see $500, $400, $600 sometimes for sewer. And I don't see nothing doing. And I figured yesterday how much I pay in sewer in the last 10 years. I almost paid $30,000. It's not only that in my business. I pay almost $700 every 2 months in my house. It's only my wife, my 3 children. So what do we have to do? We have to stop using the water in the house. We have to buy bottles to take a shower. It's cheaper. You know, we have to thinking. And San Bruno is a beautiful town. 1977, when I came the first time, I worked for Sambos and Rollingwood. I love this town, and I decided to grow my family in this town. And I love it, and I love the people. And when I see my people in San Bruno, the situation when we live in, I'm feeling very, very sad. And I think the last thing when we expect for this city council, if they cannot helping us to solving our problems, don't give more problems. This situation with the water is very bad. A lot of people are already turning 65, 70. They have to work to more, maybe 75 years older, just to retire because can't afford it to pay these rates. It's no matter about money. It's matter about humanity. Thinking in ourselves, thinking in our kids. This beautiful city, they go worse and worse. And no, because we don't work hard. Because I see people in the morning coming every day, go out to work. I see people coming in the afternoon because I work in sometimes 16, 17 hours. I think it's a time to think. Maybe we had to do some fix. But the question is, what happened in the last 30 years or 25 years? What happened with our money? We put money all the time, every other month. Why nothing is done? So I asked the city council to thinking and postpone this thing, no increase the water. No, it's no matter to me about money. And this is I want to tell you one thing. This is no poor town. We are a rich town. We have on the cable, we're on the water, we're on the garbage, we have a shopping centers, we have a big casino. We put a lot of money in taxes. But what happened? Where's the thing? Why we in bad shape? We have to think. Each one had to think. Because if not, we go worse and worse. Maybe we're not doing the right thing. Maybe the way when we're doing the things that's not supposed to be done. Maybe we have to move the town if we can afford to live in this way. But my question in this moment again, I asked the city council, let the people talk and not punish only because they talk. That one is not democracy. That one is corruption. And thinking in us, maybe you guys can afford it to pay the bills. But I'm got a very hard time. I have 12 employees sometimes, and I tell you, the lady is there when I didn't, sometimes I had to ask him, please give me a favor, give me a chance. I can afford it. I can pay the bill. And I'm not feeling embarrassed to say that because it's my daily life. I'm working from 6 o'clock to sometimes 11 or 12 o'clock. And many of you guys, I know you guys because I see, I don't know the name, but I see and I dealing, I'm cross walking. And please, I know thinking is right, we pass bad situation, or if you guys act in different way, you guys go give the people the power to decide. Remember one thing, the power belongs to the people, and the people have the supreme power to decide what they want. Thank you.
Thank you. Vivian Robinson, and this is the last slip I have, so if anyone else wants to speak, please make sure you give them to the clerk. Vivian?
I seem like, I think, one of the younger people in this room, and it's really disturbing because I just realized that a huge population of San Bruno is probably on fixed incomes. No doubt we need the change. Any idiot can look at that pipe and say, okay, we've been long overdue for these changes. Nothing's for free. No one's gonna, there's no bailouts for us. And we are not immune, unlike any other city, to financial crisis. Look at Vallejo, they went bankrupt. But now's not a good time at all. If you look at the fire department, just this week, you were interviewed, I believe, because they want to cut off service to there. Matters to me if it's my house. The police department, God forbid there's, with all due respect, God forbid there's 4 or 5 calls at the same time. They won't know which direction. A dispatcher can't even tell them which direction to go. Foreclosures. Come to my neighborhood. I live on Sunset in the Pacific Heights area. Foreclosures. People are so upside down in their house. I mean, Mayor, you are invested in real estate. I'm sure you know. People are so upside down. If they wanted to, they couldn't even sell their house. Lines of credit that are people's lifelines being chopped off by banks. Jobs. My husband has a master's. We lost 2/3 of our income overnight. Means nothing to anyone in this room because you guys every other week or monthly take home your fat salaries. But little families like us, I was raised here, went to school locally here. We just can't afford and raise, especially now. Again, like I said, nothing's for free, and if this were to fail, the possibility of something costing 10 times more, I'm sure, would be realistic. But maybe it's something we could pull off. I mean, I find things like treetops that blight in Pacific Heights, where gang tags are everywhere. Why don't we spend money there, or help our fire department or our police department? But I've heard so many good suggestions here, and wanted to maybe suggest a little bit more, you guys being inside with the government. Federal money, stimulus money, anything like that. A great suggestion, again, was metering, especially for the low-income, fixed-income people. Very difficult for them. I have a mother-in-law. She's an amputee. She sometimes doesn't know if she should get her darn medication or pay her bills. That's wrong. After working in this country, the best country in the world, seniors in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s should not make that decision. Again, I know it means nothing to you guys. You're not there yet, and you have your pensions and everything, but please think about the people that have elected you to office and temper what needs to be done with a little bit of sensitivity about what's going on, not only in this city, the county, the state, but globally. We're in a terrible crisis, terrible financial crisis. I also want to know if it would be helpful for people to not fight these changes if we knew where the money was going. We pay taxes, we pay our bills. Is there any kind of public disclosure? I'm very disappointed to say I'll be the first one not to be involved in my city government. I've been paying taxes and everything, and it wasn't until recently I got very upset at something that I started looking around. Where's the money going? You know, what's coming in, what's going out, just like we have to adjust our budgets, our family budgets when crisis happens. What's the city doing? Are there any cutbacks? Are there any furloughs? You know, what's the city's responsibility? Because on our side, on the end user side, we just see increase, and you just feel frustrated and helpless. Like we're not going to get anywhere. So that's about it. I mean, another concern that I didn't even think about is small business owners. We're not like South San Francisco. I work for UCSF in San Francisco. San Bruno, as great a city as it is, doesn't have the luxury of attracting huge names. We lost most of Gap, as a matter of fact. I think that may have been our biggest employer. I don't want us to lose our small businesses that to me are the backbone. They pay payroll taxes, other associated fees for running a business, and if we lose them, we start losing San Bruno. You know, it's just not a time. Like I said, looking at that, no denying, we need to replace it, but again, can we negotiate? If we own so much, like he said, can we negotiate our fees? Can we do something so that it doesn't hurt us so much? That's a big increase, and I don't know what your checkbook looks like at the end of the month, but mine does not look, and I don't foresee it looking like I could afford a 40% increase, you know? So like I said, it means very little to you guys, but think about the people, think about the foreclosed homes and why people walked away. It's just, you know, please take into consideration the other suggestions that we had. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Byers, Evergreen.
Hi, I wasn't planning on speaking tonight. I'm just getting over a cold, so I apologize. But I kind of agree with everything that everyone's saying. We can't afford it right now. I mainly just wanted to, you know, just kind of remind the council that, you know, we are a small town. People can't afford it right now. I mean, our kids play baseball together. I mean, we've watched baseball games, things like that. Rico went to school together. You know, Mr. Franzella, you went to school with my brother, and a lot of my neighbors, things like that. So really, you guys were chosen by the people, you know, before the people. Okay, we can't afford it. And I mean, I just really wanted to say that. And then, I mean, that's just the majority of it. So really, I mean, we need to turn this down. This proposal isn't going to work. People can't afford it. And as for the piping and things that need to be done and stuff, not to bring up old war wounds or battle wounds or anything, but you remember me here and plenty of my other neighbors or whoever on Summerhill. Let's not bring that up, Aaron, and everything. But I could swear when we were here for that, and all my neighbors and all of us, and not just Summerhill, but the other developments that have happened, we were told at that time, because we were concerned about the sewer and all these pipes that need to be, you know, taken care of, and these other homes that were going to be coming into play, that, you know, this is going to be an effect on us. Well, who's going to pay for that? We were told the developers at that time had set aside money to handle this. And now that everything's kind of been quiet, it's, you know, whatever, a couple years later, now you guys are coming to us for the money. Okay? We just can't afford it. We have a lot of neighbors that, whether I have a neighbor next door to me, 85 years old, you know, I go visit her all the time. Our kids, you know, we go together, she's taking care of my kids. I mean, it's not just the older people, there's young kids, you know, we've got a 25-year-old, you know, he's going to school, he's, you know, trying to rent a place, you know, it all, you know, no one can really afford it. And I think that, you know, you're chosen by us. We really ask you to just be for us and find these developers who said they were going to pitch in money for our sewer systems, for our upkeep on the pipes and all this other stuff, because, you know, that's why we went ahead and let them develop here, okay? And I hope that you guys really kind of remember that. And I hope there is no cronyism or corruption or anything like that. I will say it's like the 5th time I've heard that today, and not even from anybody that's been here. And I mean, like, when I have people that used to babysit me, they're saying that to me. I hope that's not really the case, but I'm just throwing it out there that, look, hey, please get it from the developers, get it from somebody, because the people at San Bruno don't have, you know, this money to just keep, you know, little increases just over time become way too much for everybody. And we're just asking you guys to look at it and go, wow, we didn't see that. Let's try to find another way. Or please, Summerhill, whoever it is that promised us whatever, we need to have them do our sewers and take care of all that. Okay, so just is that it? Thanks.
Thank you. I have no more speaker cards. Is there anyone else that wants to address the council on this issue? Okay, this is a public hearing, so if you don't speak now and the council closes the public hearing, you will be precluded from speaking on this item. So, again, anyone wanting to speak, I just need you to state your name for the record, since I don't have a card. You speak your name.
Sheila Lawler. I live on Madison Avenue, 8-year resident of San Bruno. I was not intending to come down here. Got the notice late, but I'm happy that Mr. Araujo did send it out. We were not aware of the increase that's being proposed. We do have concerns. I didn't hear the earlier comments. I'm assuming that they were fairly similar to the ones that the prior two speakers said. I do think this is a time for us to postpone what can be postponed, and I think that appropriate prior knowledge really needs to be given to the citizens of San Bruno so that we're made aware. We're all in particularly difficult times, and I think it's just a time to figure out what can you spend now and what can you postpone without jeopardizing our homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council? Okay. Folks, I need you to put in cards, because if you don't get your cards in and the council closes the public hearing, you're not going to be able to speak. So
Well, I want to
let me just
apologize
ask
for that.
one minute before you start. I don't want to use your time. City Clerk, there's a couple of speakers over here that indicated they want to speak. Could you please give them a card? Okay? Thank you.
I want to apologize for not.
Oh,
getting
no,
the
that's-
card. I wasn't going to speak either.
I just want to
but
make sure everyone gets a chance to speak.
Okay.
Because once it's closed, I can't let you speak even if I want to.
I understand. My name is Pam, and I live on Toyon Way. I've lived in San Bruno for 30 years. Both of my kids went to high school here. I've worked in San Bruno for the last 15 years. I also did not receive the notice about the increase. I'm sure that if more people had received it, there would be an outpouring of support here, and this room would be overfilled. You'd have to book another bigger room. You know, there's a time and a place for everything, and my house needs a lot of renovations. I'm a state employee, and I received a 10% pay cut, so I've been furloughed since March. It is tough economic times for everybody. Small businesses are failing. Like I said, there's a time and place for everything. My house needs renovations. I'm not going to do it when I don't have the income that I can afford it. Now, most of your customers at the time cannot afford any increases in any bills, never mind utility stuff they virtually need to live. So again, everyone's made great remarks, good comments, and I just want to follow up. Now is just simply not the time to give increases to people who are suffering, the cities of San Bruno. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Lightfoot. No, I need you to go to the microphone because there's people at home and you won't be broadcast over cable TV.
My name is Steve Lightfoot. I live on Crestmore Drive, and I just wanted to say I didn't get a notice either, so I'm added to that. I don't know how many other people didn't get a notice, but I didn't. So that's it.
Thank you.
I didn't get a notice, and if I did, I'd be against it.
Thank you. Jim Madden?
I'm Jim Madden. I've lived in San Bruno since 1984. Recently, well, actually retired 2 years ago. I'm against the proposal. We didn't get a notice, for one thing. It's not time to do it. I know we can't afford it. My wife took a 5-hour-a-week cut in her job. My pension has been reduced. Let's see. My medical co-pays have been doubled. My prescription co-pays have been doubled. So if this thing goes into effect, what's going to happen is the next thing that goes out of my budget is San Bruno Cable, and then I'm going to look for getting my house reevaluated for the city taxes, because it's really not a good time.
Thank you. Elizabeth Domator?
I'm Elizabeth, and I'm a homeowner for 41 years, and I'm opposing this increase. I did not get my notice till Friday, and this is the first time I am attending any city council meeting. My concern is the way the city does the estimate for the sewer charge. I don't think it's right that you go for 3 months, November, December, and January, and see how much I use, because I did not know, like I had a water breakage in my home, so now I'm paying $40 for water, and I'm paying $200 for sewage charge. I don't think it's wrong. I think if you can read my meter for 2 months and send me a bill, you could calculate a sewer charge at the same time to go along with that. That's all I have to say.
Just before you leave, let me just comment that if in fact you had a pipe break during those months, and we're going to come back and I'll ask staff to address that. But if you've had a break, I'd recommend that you go in and take your receipts to repair it.
I have already sent in all my paperwork, and I had a $250 sewer charge, and it was reduced, but it's still way too high.
Well, and I appreciate that. I mean,
yeah.
we try and work with people though if there's been a repair. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council on this issue? Okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's see if we can't get some of the questions answered. Going back to one of the first speakers, if we could talk about in a little bit of detail of kind of some of the construction that's been done on both the water and wastewater system in past years.
Yes, so the work over the past 10 years, a lot of that have been done to address known deficiencies. Some of them were mandates by the state water board to clean up both known areas where sewage was leaking, as well as address capacity issues, and as well to replace infrastructure both above ground and below ground that is literally deteriorating. It wasn't a replacement just for replacement's sake, but it was a replacement because it was literally a little breaking. So most of what has been done over the past 10 years was doing those things, so addressing capacity issues. So when we were replacing a pipe that's breaking, also putting in slightly larger capacity so that it wouldn't break again in the future. We had work done to make sure the pumping stations that if they would to stop working, we'd have sewer system overflows. For example, the work recently done on Rollingwood was a 3-phase project that was done over a number of years, which addressed some state-mandated cease and desist orders, as well as some capacity issues that we needed to address, which was rehabilitation of one of the pump stations, a replacement of the pump station, replacement of a lot of the piping that was along Rollingwood Drive, as well as a new force main to push sewage in and out of that area. So those are some of the sort of examples of where we had done. As well, we had some recent well failures, so we had some of the wells that we needed to replace that have broken. We recently did a few years back, we rehabilitated or replaced well 20 to make sure we had enough water capacity to pump around to all the different residents in that area. So those are some of the projects we've done over the past 10 years or so.
How about a value on some of that stuff?
How about value on some of those repairs?
The question is the value, what's been invested in capital improvements over the last 10 years? I'm prepared only to hazard a guess, really. The capital program has, I think the council generally has approved around, on average, maybe $2 million a year in capital improvements. Some of those are for larger projects that actually have occurred over a longer period of time. But I would say probably on average between $1.5 million and $2 million each of those years.
Okay.
I think the Rollingwood project was about $5 million just itself. I think the well 20 might have been in a couple $1 million range. I'm not, but many of these are significant projects. It's not just replacing a localized piece of pipe. These are major investments that were required.
I would add that we had another large project at the early part of that 10-year mark in the Bel Air neighborhood to replace some of those big pipes. That was, I believe, in the $7 million range.
Question was asked, why are we looking at 10 and 11% increases when other cities are looking at 9%?
I would make one general comment about it depend on also on the size of the city. Some of the cities are bigger than us, and they have the benefit of scale. If the whole collection system is bigger than, let's say, the size of our system, can be a benefit, and the overall cost is smaller based on the benefit of scale. On the same concept, I would add also, like, what is the difference between South San Francisco sewer rates and us. South San Francisco has the benefit of having big commercial users, and having that difference mixed between commercial user and residential user, they are able to keep residential user average cost lower than how our city is able to.
The question was raised about increase in wages, and the city is currently in a budget deficit, and this council has directed that there'll be no wage increases in the coming year, and the city will be in next month. In fact, it's on our agenda later this evening in setting budget schedules, but we'll be looking at furloughs and reduction of workforce. So that was asked by a number of people. What's being talked about right now is generally about a 6-day furlough per person throughout the year, so about a half day a month. But we'll be talking about that later in the meeting, but there will be no increases in the coming year in the budget process. Can we talk about how we use the 4-month average on the wastewater and why we do that? And is there a possibility of using, or I guess it's the 3 months, but is there a possibility of using the 4 highest months of rainfall each year? And
I think if the council directed that we come up with a different system, I would believe that we could. What is done and has been traditionally done is really December, January, February, March. Traditionally have been the winter months. I mean, as the speaker indicated, that tradition is a little more suspect. But I think to select months would be a little bit of a challenge, because we have the 2-month billing cycles. Perhaps if the council directed us to look at monthly billing, which is really something we could do, we could maybe modify the system. I'm not sure over the long term that December, January, February, March are not the winter months, and hopefully it'll return to the wettest months. But what just to understand the reason that we do that is the wastewater, the sewer rates are based in part on an annual water consumption, and we select those 4 winter months because that is the wettest period generally, and people are not doing outside landscaping. So the expectation is that a majority of the water that is being used during those wet periods is not being used for landscaping, and in fact goes down the sewer ultimately. So that is the theory of how that was selected. We've had that for a long period of time, and I think the concept is not unreasonable, but maybe the facts would change and the council would direct we look at it in a different manner.
Question was raised on rounding of units, rounding up rather than using the exact number.
There has been a change in the city's utility billing system. We upgraded the system about 3 years ago, and at that time this average was based on a unit that went to either 1 or 2 decimal points. When we went to the new system, it was rounded to whole numbers, to whole units. The impact on that did not increase the city's revenue at all. What we do now is there's a rounding down below 0.5 to the whole number. To those that have 0.5 and above, it is rounded to the next unit. So there was no overall increase in city revenue, but in fact it did adjust some people that happened to be rounded down. Some were rounded down now and some are rounded up. So it is a change in the billing. It is different than what was done before. I'm not sure that which way is right. It's different. And again, it was not done in such a way to generate additional revenue for the city, and it does not generate additional revenue for the city, but is in fact a rounding of the unit number.
The question was asked, has the rate study been completed?
Yes, the rate study is the basis for the analysis that developed the rates that you were presented for initial consideration in March. The rate study was completed prior to that.
Okay. And the question was talked about the $5 million that was lent to the redevelopment agency. I don't know that that's still an outstanding balance, but I know council had spoken about that debt being paid off soon, but perhaps you could address that, Mr. Larry.
Any redevelopment agency is required to have debt in order to be eligible to receive tax increment revenue. In this particular instance, the redevelopment agency for San Bruno is relatively new. The startup costs and the early years of the redevelopment agency. In fact, the city lent the redevelopment agency, I think the total actually now is $3.9 million. For the past number of years, at the beginning, again, the agency needed this money for operations and didn't have the ability to pay it back. The agency has now reached the point where, in fact, this debt, interest is being paid on the debt. Originally, that was not the case, but interest is being paid on the debt. The borrowing is actually from the city's equipment reserve, and that borrowing and the redevelopment operations has no impact on the rates or on the water or wastewater enterprise accounts.
Okay, question was asked on the Lehman Brothers loss. How does that affect the rates? The question was asked about the Lehman Brothers.
The city, as many other cities in San Mateo County and many cities and other investors across the country, did in fact have money in the San Mateo County investment pool that was lost as a result of the Lehman bankruptcy back in September of 2008. This loss was accounted for in the current year. The biggest impact of the loss was to the to the general fund, the city's general fund. But in fact, the two enterprise accounts suffered the two enterprise accounts experienced some loss as their proportion of this overall loss. The impact on the rates that the city council is considering, that loss was accounted for this year, and it has no impact on the rates that are being proposed for next year.
Okay, a lot of comment on, the question was asked if the envelope that the notice was mailed in talked about a rate increase, and it was a flyer such as this, and right on the outside it said notice of proposed increase to City of San Bruno's water and wastewater rates. So that was sent, and that was sent out. Okay.
Through the chair. I just want to make a point that it was sent out in March, and I'm just saying it was.
Maybe the staff, okay, well, we're not going to have conversations with the audience. You've had your time, and we're going to get your questions answered, okay? And I appreciate your concerns, but let me work through this for you and get you answers. And then whether you believe them or you don't, I can't change that, but I can get you the answers, okay? If staff could just tell how these were prepared and how these were sent out?
Actually, the Finance Department, along with the Public Works Department, was responsible for the preparation of the notice. This is the second period in which such a notice has been provided to the property owners in San Bruno. Back in 2006 was a very similar mailing to each property. While we prepare the notice, the actual printing is done by an outside mailing firm. They have access to the mailing addresses for every property owner in San Bruno from the county assessment records. It is not sent to resident. It is sent to the name of the property owner. It is sent bulk mail, but it is sent first class, and I have certification at the office by the mailing house that the 11,552 addresses were mailed. I'm not going to sit here and say they were received, but they were, or they were noticed or whatnot, but they were in fact 11,552 were mailed.
And the notices are sent to the property owner, not to the water customer, is that correct?
That is correct. The requirements under Prop 218 is very clear that it is the property owners, so we do not use our account list for the mailing, but it is mailed to each of the property owners in San Bruno.
So conceivably, any rental properties where the tenants are paying the water would not receive the notice, because the state law requires that the notice is sent directly to the owner.
Yes, and what we have done is, in anticipation of the public hearing tonight, as we are required, a legal notice was placed in the newspaper at a cost of several $1,000s to make sure that the public hearing and the notice is properly provided to everyone else in the community that did not get the direct mailing.
Okay. Then the question or the request to discuss what are our plans? I mean, what are we actually looking at replacing in the ensuing years? I mean, can you talk about some of the projects that might be forthcoming?
Absolutely. Some of the projects that we have that were part of this model used to estimate the rates we need for the next few years, they include there we go. So we have quite a bit of mainline replacement. That's where the bulk of the funding comes from. Right now we have, like I said, a system that is averaging 80 years old. So it's a replacement of the underground utility system. We have some seismic rehabilitation of some of the water tanks. We have the replacement of one more sewage pump station in the next 3 years, as well as a water pump station in the next 3 years. We have a request for part of that model is for an equipment purchase, and that was mentioned earlier, to help us do preventative maintenance. Right now, the city spends quite a bit of time having to address specific locations where if we don't visit them and do preventative maintenance, we have sewer system overflows, which means we have to report to the state, which means that we could be fined. And so we have to hit those areas on a regular basis. This equipment will allow us to, one, use that more efficiently, and two, to reduce costs as for some of the larger breaks, we have to use contract repair services. Using these equipment pieces will allow more of that repair to be done in-house. Some of it is done in-house. Now more of it we'll be able to do in-house at a lower cost. We also have some planning efforts that need to happen, some state-mandated planning efforts for an urban water management plan, for a water master plan update, for a wastewater master plan update. So some of these are planning aspects that have to take place due to the state requirements, as well as improvements to the wastewater treatment plant. We have done some state mandated improvements over the past 10 years. Unfortunately, the regulations keep changing, and the state has required new additional treatment measures that have to be in place at that co-owned plant with South San Francisco. So that is also part of the needed improvements that the rates pay for.
Okay.
Through the chair. If I may ask a quick question, when you talked about fines, give us an idea is it $100 a day or?
I believe it could be up to 10,000 a day, I believe is the number.
Right.
There was comments on public disclosures to where money spent. The city council each year passes its budget, which includes all of the enterprise funds, which are wastewater and city water departments. That budget is available in the city library year-long and during the budget process. And I invite all of you to come, and we're going to be setting dates, but it's probably the mid-June, early part of June, where we'll be having budget study sessions, reviewing this year where cuts are going to be made, because at this point we're estimating a $2.2 million deficit for the city of San Bruno. And from everything that you read in the newspaper and hear about the polls and the state's situation with the propositions, they don't appear slated to pass. And you've heard the governor state that if they don't pass, he's coming to the cities, okay? And it's estimated that that could possibly mean another $1 million to the city of San Bruno. So we could be some $3.2, $3.3 million short. We'll be having those budget hearings and discussions as to what's being cut and how that money is going to be managed. And again, the budget will be the proposed budget, and the finalized budget or budget that's passed is always available in the city library. Question was raised as to why don't we spend some money on treetops. That's absolutely against the law. We don't own treetops. That's private property, much to our chagrin. The financial markets have stopped that developer from moving forward. We understand the problems. We would very much like to see it done, but that's not a project that we have the authority to go spend money on. That would be a gift of public funds. Comment was made that Summerhill had promised to fix all of the sewer lines and plumbing in San Bruno. That was just a complete misunderstanding on your part. To replace those would be far in excess of the total cost of their project. I think that covers most of the questions. A lot of comments talking about the current financial situation. We're certainly well aware of that. We're dealing with police, fire, personnel cuts here in the city and within our own lives, and we certainly understand that. Were there any questions that were asked that we didn't get covered? Okay.
I did also mention on this list it's not complete, so I had mentioned to her, and I just wanted to make sure that was just, you know.
I don't know what list you're waving back there, but.
Oh, I'm sorry, the people that signed a protest.
Okay. Any protests that are turned in will be accounted for. Okay. The protest, Proposition 218, requires 50% plus one to prohibit the council from taking an action. And currently, at the beginning of the meeting, we were at 3.9%. So there's a big distance from 50 plus one.
Okay, I just mentioned it only because I know
Thank you.
wasn't on here, and I know mine was turned in before 5.
Give it to the clerk right now, and we'll put your name on there.
She already has it.
Okay, thank you.
Before 5, and I don't know how many other things.
Any other comments from council?
Is there any possibility of those missing?
Any other questions from council?
Through the chair.
Discussion? Councilwoman O'Connell? I'm sorry that you didn't understand me. I said anyone can turn in anything right now. They will all be accounted for. Okay, you're not at 4% yet. It requires over 50% to prohibit the council from taking action. So turn it in. We'll count it. Okay. If you'd like to turn one in and you haven't, please turn one in. We'll count it. Okay. Thank you. No, that's fine. I don't take it as being offensive. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Councilmember Medina?
I think where the confusion lies, the concern was what we received as a list, we received a list as of a certain point that they could type it up at City Hall. There are those that have come in after, and that's why the number went from 387, for example, to 454. And those are things that are being turned in the clerk, which will then be recorded in here as required by Prop 218, but they didn't get all recorded at this moment because they're still coming in. But they will be updated to reflect anything that has come in.
Okay, and I appreciate that. And just when I mentioned to her or asked her, she said it was everything up to 5 o'clock. So the ones I was talking about, were before.
There's a matter of trying to get it to us and get it copied in here prior to the meeting and ready for tonight, but it will be updated.
Councilwoman O'Connell?
Thank you. I think a lot of what is people's concerns are, I don't know, maybe we haven't done a good enough job with the background. And let me say a few things, and please, Mr. O'Leary, correct me if I'm wrong. We all pay our property taxes. Some of us pay monthly with our mortgage bill, and some of us pay twice a year when we get it from this county. Most of us, and I was too before I was firmly on the city council, were under the impression that those monies that we spend go directly to the city. That is not the case. All that money you spend, you send in on your property taxes, what do we get, 1%? Is that correct? I always forgot.
Actually, the city gets about 14% of the
14%.
of the dollar, 14%
So
of
for
each
every
dollar that is
dollar
paid
you send in on your property
tax.
taxes, we get 14 cents. The city gets 14 cents. Okay, so people were talking about all the money they pay in taxes, and we pay the same, we pay taxes too. We pay our property taxes just like everyone else, but keep in mind, 14 cents of that for every dollar is what comes back to the city. Okay, so that's I think a misunderstanding that's out there. I heard, and I get really upset because I am human, but I've heard over and over again accusations of corruption and cronyism and all these other things, which astonish me. I have seen some, I've known some of you since I was practically born. Some of you live down the block, across the street, next to my parents, around the, you know us, all of us, and now suddenly, because we're sitting up here, you can accuse us of corruption just out of the blue. I really resent that. If you have proof of corruption, or if you really think we are doing something corrupt, let us know, and we'll show you what we are doing, or we'll explain it, or if there's something going on, we'll investigate it. But to stand up at that microphone and accuse any of us and our staff of corruption is totally offensive. That's one comment. Somebody got up and said several times, we don't understand, or we're not in that position because we're young or whatever. I'm sorry, my mother is 80. Please don't tell her I said that. My father's 83. He's currently in the hospital. We're going to try to figure out how to pay his hospital bills because he's on Medicare just like the rest of us, and it, of course, does not cover everything. It covers, I think it's 80%, so we're going to have to figure out how to pay that. They've lived here 70 years and been paying their taxes, all those things. And the rest of us, too, have parents that are in the same positions. So for people to stand up and say, we don't understand, is another thing that offends me. Now, 2 more things, and then I'll probably shut up. One, please remember that South San Francisco and San Francisco both have a strong, large commercial base that helps offset the cost to the residents for their utilities and for all their utilities. We don't have that. Unfortunately for us, we just don't. So the actual cost of putting new pipes in and keeping the system whole and getting you the water that you need and the water to the fire hydrants to fight the fires that could happen are borne by all of us. We have to pay it. We are very creative. Public Works is very creative. Our city manager is very creative in looking for monies through the Recovery Acts, through grants, through loans, through all those different kinds of things. They don't just sit around and say, oh, let's increase the rates and let's just screw it to the ratepayers. They pay the same rates we do. So all those things are out there. We don't like to pay more rates, the same as you don't, but we understand that there's over a total of $130 million worth of work in the next 10 years that needs to be done so that when you go to your faucet and turn the water on, you get good, clean water that's safe and that meets all the state requirements. So please keep those things in mind. Oh, and one more thing. In San Bruno, and to my knowledge, we are the only city in San Mateo County, we have a provision that if you meet the low income definition from the county, you can apply for a discount for your utility rates. We are the only city that does that. So if you call the city clerk or the finance director, and he will tell you how to do that, and you fill in the papers, and you can get a reduction. I think it's 20%. Okay? So please, we try to take care of people in our city. You know, I've lived here all my life. I was born here. So those are my comments.
Through the chair.
Councilmember Vice Mayor Wayne.
Just a couple of brief comments also. Nothing that I can say is going to make you feel a whole lot better because things just cost money. Subcommittee, we actually looked at being more aggressive because a lot of these repairs have to be done and have to be done sooner than later. But we decided not to take the real easy road, put things off, because you put things off and all we need is something major to happen. It's going to cost us more on a prorated basis than the rates that we're proposing. We decided on a midstream, and I think it's, you know, from a planning standpoint, it's good. It's not good for you or me because we have to pay it. Unfortunately, in this city and every other little city around and some big cities, there's a lot of stuff that's not controlled by us. And like the mayor said a little while ago, the word is already out pretty directly to the cities that if and when these propositions don't pass, they're coming right to us. We have no control over that. There's just no way that that we have control and can say, wait a minute, don't touch our redevelopment funds, don't touch anything else you think you want to touch. They're going to take it. And we're in a position up here to vote on certain things, and unfortunately, you know, I have to pay the same thing you do. I pay the same cable, I pay the same sewer and water as everybody else, and I don't want my rates to go up. But in the bigger picture, it's small potatoes compared to what we'll really have to pay in the future if we have some major problems. And we've done an awful lot with the money that we bit the bullet a long time ago when I was first on the council, 12 to 14 years ago, to increase rates. We've got a lot of comments, and we've done an awful lot with that money since then because we were in bad shape. Previous councils, you know, wanted to take the easier road, and we bit the bullet at the time. And I think, you know, unfortunately, we really have to do it now. It's an unfortunate thing, but it's just one of the pieces of daily life in a small city. And there's a lot of stuff here that we have no control over. You know, like Larry said, the treetops development, boy, I'd love to get in there and do something there, but we can't. And the developers, you saw up there by Lunardi's, he stopped building his homes simply because they weren't selling. So there's a lot of projected income that we were anticipating that we're not getting. We'd love to have treetops totally built and get some tax revenue so we could, you know, settle some of these rates and things down. But this whole economy is affecting us, and we're kind of at the bottom. We haven't seen a whole lot of stimulus come our way. So.
Other comments from council? Let me just ask staff, you know, we've heard a lot about the current economic times that we're certainly aware of, but is there anything that we maybe missed? Is there anything that could be done to, at least maybe at the front end of this, ease some of it?
I wish I could say there were a variety of things. As I'm sitting here and understanding the concerns of the community and understanding the concerns of the council, really the only thing that really comes to mind is when the rate study actually began late last year, and it's really an involved process and takes a period of time. Since that time, the economy is, as both the council and the public has talked about, has really deteriorated. One of the things that the council has spoken very seriously about, primarily as it relates to the general fund, is the shared responsibility and the cutbacks that have been made and the positions frozen and the projects and expenditures delayed. One aspect of that is also the expectation that employee compensation be affected in some way, and the council's had various discussions around the need for, really, in order to balance the budget, which is the council's direction, for either layoffs, furloughs, and we've had frozen positions. One of the other aspects of that conversation the council has had is that as the general fund funded employees are faced or need to face that situation, that in the fairness to all of our employees, that would be extended to any employee working in the in any of the enterprise accounts, that if there are in fact going to be compensation freezes, and for the general fund, the council has already articulated that there have been no increased compensation in the current year, and the budget strategy for the general fund for next year is no compensation increase next year also, and again with furloughs being some furlough time being a possibility. It would seem to me that without affecting the city's responsibility to pay South San Francisco or to pay for the water we buy or whatnot, that there that the effect of the furloughs and compensation freezes could result in some savings in the water and wastewater fund. Without, I would be concerned to specify exactly. I would think that probably, again, if the council's direction for the general fund were expanded and to the enterprise accounts, we could probably find some savings between 0.5% and nearly 1%. But I think that would be the range that we could look at. And come back with the council with something specific. But I think again in the compensation area, that could be an adjustment that might be possible.
Comments from other council members?
Well,
Councilman
I'm
Ibarra?
going to go next. Okay. I've sat up here for 13 years and made some very difficult decisions and listened to many people get up here and say that they like San Bruno. And I like to think that this council and the previous council, and the staff, the whole city staff has had a hand in us enjoying living in San Bruno. A lot of the decisions, like the vice mayor said, when we first came on this council, were not popular at all. We're a young council, and we came up and we listened to our staff and saw an infrastructure, majority of which all underground, that we need to take care of. And I'm confident sitting here right now that I'm glad we started doing that 10 years ago, because we'd be in a world of hurt right now looking at complaints, probably more than likely complaints from residents saying, why is my water system so bad? Or why the pipe's breaking, and why is the sewer backing up? We can't stand to have sewer problems, major fines. There are houses, there are claims. People have been out of their homes because of the system, and we can't ignore that. Yeah, we can sit here and say, okay, it's not a good time now. It doesn't feel good to do it right now, and wait. And we all know that costs go up. Cost is never going to go down. Yeah, your property values will go down, but then they'll come back up. But we have a responsibility. And I like to think that I'm experienced at doing that. It's not going to be popular. And yeah, in November, you can decide on whether it's, I'm not making popular decisions anymore. But I'm going to stand by what my record is. And unfortunately, I feel for the people that have spoken tonight. Can be very sympathetic. And yeah, I lost a lot of money last year. I'm in financial trouble also. I do this up here along with my colleagues because we care about this community. We don't have hefty salaries that we're not sympathetic to what everyone's going through here. So I'm going to make a decision that is best for the community, that's best for the whole of San Bruno. And unfortunately, there are 5% of the people that have spoken, that aren't agreeing with us, that aren't agreeing with me. And until, we get a bigger, unfortunately, until we get a bigger voice, we've got to make that decision, what's best for this community.
Through the chair.
Councilmember Medina?
I'm going to echo probably a lot of what the other folks up here have. I think this process has taught us something that maybe we also need to do better education and outreach to the community as far as what our situation is and what the infrastructure is and what really goes on underneath that we can't see. Sure, you can see when you have new vegetation and new median strips, and that's easy to see the tangible outcome of that investment. But obviously, if you turn the water on and you flush a toilet and everything's fine, there's no worries, not until there's a problem, like my neighbor on New Year's Eve when the sewer system went out. Then there's a problem. I think we can learn from this and go forward and, maybe an open house down at the corporation yard so that folks that are interested, that wish to come and see and understand. And here, when I worked at city staff on Parks and Rec, I used to think folks sitting up here increasing rates and, why would I ever want to do that? But then when you actually go down and visit the yard, speak to the staff that are out there on the line, the rank and file, watch the videos, visit the wells, see the pump houses, see the tanks, and the conditions that they're in, something has to be done. That's the reality of it. And I think it would fare us all to be able to see what I saw and to hear what I've heard firsthand. If you don't choose to, you don't choose to. But for those that are interested, who want to know where their dollars are going, it would afford that opportunity. Also, echoing, I do understand that there's hardships and hard times. I've seen coworkers affected, of some long-term tenured employees where I work. I've had friends, had to console family, who are in hard straits and hard times. And I've been affected myself too. So we all, in one way or the other, no matter who we are, either we have or we know someone who has. This is a different time that we've ever seen before. So I am sympathetic, and I don't want anyone to sit out there and think this large salary, the $486 that I get up here, has me in a different boat than others. I spoke to one gentleman who gave me an email some time ago about the garbage rates, and he wanted to know what my increase was last year. And when was the last time I got a raise? Rather bold for somebody to ask me who I don't know, but that's okay, I answered him. Got quiet after I told him the answer, because I think he was shocked. I'll speak for myself, I'm not a wealthy person. I'm just a person up here who is doing the best job that I can by going out in the field, listening to you folks who I appreciate you taking your time here tonight, and going down to the yard and seeing for myself the conditions and speaking to the staff that are out in the field. And I think it would help us all better understand the situation that we're in and the monies that are needed in order to make the repairs. I'm sorry. There is the aspect that we don't control, and I wanted to make a point. The FPUC increases, the treatment plant in South City, the sewer overflows, and the mandates we get from the state. Those are stuff that we have no control. The 55 hotspots that the staff go on a weekly basis in our community to the more mature, low-lying areas in this town every week to ensure we don't violate these state mandates that we can be assessed for thousands of dollars. This is something I learned by going out there and seeing it for myself. Our system is not the worst, but it's certainly not the best. And in order to provide the same quality and service level that you've come to expect and you want to continue, we do need to do something to prepare and plan not only for today, but for the future. Thank you.
Maybe to the city manager, Councilmember Medina's proposal that we do some type of outreach to better educate the public, let them know what we're doing. And there were questions raised tonight as to, well, what are you going to do? What have you done? How difficult would that be to put something like that together in the next week or so it could be hosted and advertised?
We would welcome the opportunity to invite, as Councilmember Medina has suggested, to invite people to come down to talk to our staff, to see some of the physical infrastructure, and to ask questions, learn about whatever it is that would be of interest to individuals within our community. We could certainly identify and advertise some times that we could provide such an open house, particularly at the courtyard, or perhaps at some of our other utility infrastructure locations. My suggestion would be that we would post something about that on the website, and/or that if anybody, particularly in the audience tonight or listening at home, has a specific interest, that we could contact them directly and provide the date and the time that such of an opportunity would be available. I would recommend that we do that within the next 2 weeks prior to your second reading of the ordinance and your final consideration of the rates.
And could you get that set up then, and then possibly, as well as the website, put it on cable TV just for
Absolutely.
those people who aren't going to the website? Okay, any further discussion from council? Action from council? Discussion from council? Any action?
Through the chair, motion to waive the first reading.
Second.
Motion and a second to waive the first reading. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Through the chair, I'll introduce the ordinance.
Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye. On the last item that we just heard on the wastewater and water rates, the city attorney informed me that we actually need to amend the action that we took. It was noticed as one public hearing, but there's actually 2 resolutions that need to be passed. So there was 1 resolution passed. So I'm going to ask that we introduce 2 separate resolutions, or 2 separate ordinances, one for water and one for wastewater.
All right. The chair will introduce the wastewater ordinance.
Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye.
The chair would like to introduce the water ordinance.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye.